And Diana, to you next. We have State Route 20, State Route 99 interchange, approval for a project study report.
All right, thank you. Putting my other hat on. So the background on this particular project, so Caltrans has a recently adopted 2017 State Route 99 Transportation Corridor Concept Report that identifies a planned project for construction of an urban interchange at the State Route 20, State Route 99 intersection. It's shown up in previous Transportation Corridor Concept Reports. This is not the first time. It's always shown up as right-of-way acquisition within the time frame of prior to 2036. And so with that, they have an estimated cost for the right-of-way for the project of $31 million, but there's no cost estimate in there. It's currently in the 2017 for the total project cost. So in early 2016, as part of a transportation workshop, City Council expressed a desire to advance the project forward. And so the first step in that is development of a project study report. And so with that, in August 2016, Council executed an agreement with Caltrans to prepare the project study report in the amount of $292,000. So the purpose of a project study report is to provide an analysis of various interchange alternatives. At that point in time, it does not do any environmental analysis. It does not determine a preferred interchange alternative. It's just strictly identifying the alternatives and putting information in there related to each alternative. So this particular project study report evaluates 4 alternatives: the single quadrant with slip-on ramp, a single point, a single quadrant, and a single point with lowering of SR20 by 12 feet. So for some general background for all of the alternatives, with all of them, Highway 99 would shift to the west slightly. So here's Highway 99 now. It would shift to the west slightly. It would provide a grade separation between Highway 99 and Highway 20. Access to SR 99 from Woodward Street, East Onstadt, West Onstadt here would be terminated. Kelton Way would be connected to East Onstadt frontage road right here. And then also it's assuming that West Onstadt would tie into a connection to Civic Center Boulevard, and the connection to Woodward would take place through this alignment right here. Driveway access to Highway 20 will be closed on the south side from the eastern portion limits to Civic Center Boulevard, and driveway access along SR 20 west of Civic Center would remain open. It also assumes that the city would acquire the Union Pacific Railroad right-of-way, and then the city would also be responsible for construction of this alignment of Civic Center Boulevard. Design constraints on all 4 alternatives includes weaving distance, merging tapers, and shoulders on SR 20. And so with that, I'll go into a little bit of information related to each specific alternative. So the single quadrant with the slip-on ramp, basically if you are eastbound Highway 20 wanting to access southbound 99, you go through this slip-on ramp. If you are westbound Highway 20 wanting to access southbound 99, you take this hook ramp. You can see from this in terms of the footprint of the interchange, pretty expansive still within the Caltrans right-of-way here. A little bit of right-of-way would be required on this side, and then right-of-way would be required along here as well. Alternative 2 is the single point interchange. So generally speaking, this one's a little bit smaller footprint. Here it's controlled by one intersection, and so you come in here, it's to be a signalized intersection, and then you would access Highway 20. If you wanted to make a U-turn, you would do so through this movement right here. Alternative 3 is the single quadrant. With the single quadrant, it's controlled by 2 separate signalized intersections, one here and one here. With this, to access Highway 99 from Highway 20, you would be turning here and then also turning on this ramp here. And so in terms of efficiency, This one would not be as efficient as the others because of the control by two signalized intersections, and then traffic would stack up significantly on Highway 20 waiting for that 99 movement. And then finally, the fourth alternative that evaluated is the same as the single point, the difference being that this assumes that Highway 20 is lowered 12 feet to reduce the overall height of the structure itself for 99. And so Highway 20 would dip down and then come back up. So all of these require some pretty significant right-of-way acquisition, some full, some partial acquisition, and then as noted previously, it does impact driveway access. In terms of costs, the costs range from $100 million for the single quadrant with slip-on ramp to almost $131 million for the single point with the lowering of SR20. To proceed with the next phase of the project, which would be project approval and environmental document, Caltrans has estimated that phase to cost $5,587,000, of which no funds are programmed at this time at the local, state, or federal level to move on to that next phase of the project. So their request tonight is to authorize the Public Works Director to sign the project study report, project development support for the State Route 20, State Route 99 interchange. And then what happens is once the document's signed, it goes back to Director Benapal at Caltrans District 3 for his signature, and then at that point, it is an approved document. There was a question about what's the lifespan of a PSR. Right. The last PSR that was done for this interchange, this intersection, was 1994. And so we now have one in 2018. In terms of how long could this document survive, you would need to update cost estimates, you would need to update the risk analysis, and then also evaluate, are there any other interchange alternatives that have been developed since this time that should be considered as you move forward with the next phase. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Diana. We'll bring it back to council for any questions at this time.
Yes, to the mayor. I have a question regarding any of the funding reimbursable or match funding that Yuba City would be putting out in any way. How is there any of that involved in this? Because we put out the 292. Is that just our share to do that, or is there anything that's reimbursable with that?
The agreement that was executed with Caltrans is the city paid the $292,000, and there's no reimbursement from Caltrans or any other agency for that.
And then from now on, we need to find and encourage state and federal involvement in this, since they are two state highways and routes that are designated as main highways. So that's our next step, is to go after state and federal funding.
Correct. To encourage
as difficult as that is, we need to.
Yeah, to encourage Caltrans to see the importance of this project to the region.
Right.
Through the mayor.
Yeah.
So Diana, what would the next steps be to be able to get us in line? Should Tiger grant money become available? Mm-hmm. What next steps would we have to engage in to be able to put us in a position for those type of funds?
To really be competitive, there's several steps. Number one, to identify the preferred alternative. So that would be to move forward with the PA and ED phase, so that you complete the environmental document, you have a selected alternative, and you know what project you're moving forward with. Number two, what would be extremely important is to identify Highway 99 and Highway 20 as major goods movement corridors. The region has really focused on I-5. And so you've seen a lot of funding go towards that corridor for goods movement. And so for Tiger and the infra grants, those types of things, they're looking for regional goods movement and improvement to goods movement throughout the state. So it's convincing the state, it's convincing others that these two state highways that bisect Yuba City are used heavily for the movement of goods throughout the region.
Thank you for that answer. What would be just a rough estimate at 10 years, at 15, at 20 years out for increased cost in a project like this?
Significant. If I just base it upon, the average engineering news record construction cost index increase on an annual basis, that typically ranges in the 3 to 3.5%. So if you compounded that annually over a 10-year period, 15-year period, you could see that could increase the cost 35-40% over the time of that period. Now, these are planning level estimates, so they are considered to be conservative estimates. But when you consider the cost of the Fifth Street Bridge at $70 million, and you think, well, how does one interchange cost this much? Well, a large portion of that is right-of-way acquisition, because it would be impacting a lot of properties. But then also just the sheer volume of what's being constructed and the impacts of you are moving traffic on 2 state highways for construction. There are significant costs associated with that. It's not, with the Fifth Street Bridge, fortunately, we were able to build a bridge to the north and keep traffic on the existing bridge. With this, just the traffic control alone would be extremely expensive. And then when you're looking at realignment of utilities, it's a very costly project, but it will just continue to grow over time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next item, we have the State Revolving Fund Grant Loan Agreement for the Water Meter Replacement Project.
Weren't we supposed to make a recommendation on that?
We have
Oh,
to-
that's
Yeah.
right. You don't need an action, right?
I'd move the item for signatures.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, now